Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to my overly competitive life. I am Charles Chapman, and as I describe myself, a coffee drinking, sports loving, Pacific Northwest native from the greater Seattle, Washington area, transplanted on the plains of Oklahoma. Talking everything sports related, guys. We're going to get into it today. Some really cool stuff. A lot of big news has happened in the last 24 hours. It's huge. The Major League Baseball, their sign stealing scandal is getting bigger and bigger. More names are involved, more people are involved. We're going to find out just how deep this goes, and it's probably going to go a lot deeper than a lot of us think. As of right now, I'll catch you up. There are 3 managers and 1 GM have lost their job. We'll get into that in just a minute. Big news out of San Francisco. The Giants also have made some moves lately with their staff as well, and we'll get to that at the end of our show. And also, the NCAA Transfer Portal, Eric King, we already talked about him on Tuesday night, of course, from Monday night, making his announcement. Still not sure where he's going to end up. We'll get into that, but a new name is in the transfer portal. We'll talk about that as well. And a lot of big things out of LSU, the national champions, historic season, the greatest season in college football history. But this week has been anything but celebratory for the Tigers. Unfortunately, they've been putting out a lot of fires all over the place, dealing with a lot of different changes, a lot of things going on in the media, which what happens when you win a national championship or you're champs or whatever. You get that big target on your back, and LSU no different. They're definitely the subject of a lot of media headlines this weekend. And well, first of all, let's get into it. MLB sign stealing scandal. Let's recap. On Monday, Major League Baseball unofficially announced that they were going to suspend the Houston Astros manager A.J. Hinch and GM Jeff Lunau for 1 year, the entire 2020 season. And not even an hour after that announcement was made, within the hour, the ownership of Houston decided, you know what, we're going to fire these 2 guys. We don't want them associated with our franchise any longer. So those guys got fired. And then 24 hours later, the next day, Alex Cora, who was an assistant on that Houston Astros 2017 World Series team that was stealing signs using video footage, he won the World Series 2018 with Boston. He's under 2 MLB investigations. 1 for what happened in Houston, and 2, the second one for what he was doing in Boston in 2018. So Wednesday afternoon, they mutually decide to go their separate ways. Or no, it was Tuesday afternoon. They mutually decide to go their separate ways, and now that's 2 managers, 1 GM, and then yesterday. Big news yesterday, Carlos Beltran, who was a part of the staff, played in Houston. It's been announced that he was hired not even in November, 2.5 months ago. He was hired in November to be the coach of the New York Mets. Didn't even get to coach a game 2.5 months later because of his role. The MLB investigation revealed his role in the sign stealing scandal in Houston. He has been fired by the New York Mets. So now that's 3 coaching openings in baseball and 1 general manager. And so we'll see what happens there. I really think this is going to go a little bit further. There was one guy, I forget his name, a guy that's played in several different systems, was thrown out. The Los Angeles Dodgers and the New York Yankees as teams who were also involved in these sign stealing scandals of sorts. I don't know. We'll see if that turns out to be anything. If Major League Baseball, if there's something to find, they're going to find out. As we obviously already talked about, they don't take it very lightly when people taint the game of baseball, and they take it very seriously. So we'll see what happens next. See if anybody else gets bit by this thing right here. But right now, this is the biggest scandal in all of baseball. This is bigger than the steroid era. This is bigger than the 1918 Black Sox scandal. This is bigger than Pete Rose. This is huge. This is going to be encompassing a lot more teams than we really think it will be. So we'll find out how that goes. Now, as we are moving on now to Eric King, the guy said he was going to go somewhere. He's transferring. Nothing yet on where he wants to go. I talked about a few different places. I thought Arkansas, TCU, and LSU, possible locations there. I think with what's going on with LSU, that might scare him away a little bit. Mississippi State and Mississippi are a couple teams that people have thrown out there with coach changes. Mike Leach at Mississippi State, Lane Kiffin in Mississippi. That's compelling right there because both those guys have spread offenses. They like to throw the ball around. They like to run a little bit. Well, like Mike Leach isn't much of a runner, but Lane Kiffin does use a little bit of his quarterback runs. So that's what fit Eric King pretty well, his skill set, his talent. Big news out of Miami. They're talking about, this may be rumors, this may be gossip, this may be wishful thinking. Who knows? I don't know yet. But De'Aaron King is supposedly favoring the Miami Hurricanes. I don't know why he would. Not a very good season last year under Manny Diaz. Let's see what they can do next season. But maybe a new quarterback would be something that they can use. They struggled a lot with moving the football. They struggled a lot with scoring. And that's something that was big. They got a transfer from Ohio State. He moved to wide receiver. Didn't work out, so maybe the King would be the answer for them next season as a temporary solution until they get to 2021. So we'll see. Maybe that's what he's thinking there. And new name into the transfer portal out of Clemson, South Carolina, Chase Bryce, the backup to Trevor Lawrence the last two seasons. He's announced that he's going to transfer out of Clemson with news of a new 5-star quarterback coming in, and DJ. So Chase is going to go somewhere else. He's put his name in the transfer portal. He's looking at his options. He's a redshirt sophomore, but he's expected to be eligible immediately because he's graduating in May from Clemson. He's getting his degree in May from Clemson, so he'll have expected to be eligible immediately. He'll have 2 years of eligibility left on if it all works out the way it looks like it should work out. He's a former 3-star prospect, dual threat prospect as a dual threat quarterback out of Georgia. And a guy that had a lot of offers, not sure where he's going to end up just yet, but he had offers from Colorado State, Boston College, Cal, and University of Charlotte. And those were 4 teams that he had offers from that were on his list before he signed with Clemson. So there's options there. Cal's not a bad place. I think they're pretty set in with quarterback. Colorado State's a decent place that he would probably be pretty successful at. Boston College, new head coach. Might not be a bad idea for him to look back at Boston College and say, what if? Maybe something else will come up. There's a few options down there in the Southeastern Conference. The Big 12 could use a couple quarterbacks as well. So we'll see what happens with that. He's a beloved figure in Clemson, and he's no slouch as a 3-star prospect. Because if anybody in Clemson will tell you, he's the savior that saved their 2018 season when they were looking like they were going to lose to Clemson or to Syracuse after Trevor Lawrence went down with an injury. Chase came in, led Clemson on a 94-yard drive, scored a touchdown, essentially won the game for Clemson against Syracuse, kept Clemson alive to get into the college football playoff and win the national championship last year, of course, over Alabama. And so this is a guy that can come in and run your offense. He can play well. He's got the skill set. He's got the talent. He's a 3-star guy, but still pretty talented. So we'll see what happens. And lastly, see LSU. Like I said, beginning of the show, putting out fires all over the place. LSU is dealing with what any team that wins the national championship deals with is coaching turnover. Guys that realize that they've got some value. They won a national championship. They've gone undefeated. They've had a historic season. Matt Rule has recruited Joe Brady, one of the 2 offensive coordinators / quarterbacks coach from LSU to the Carolina Panthers in the NFL. He's going to be the offensive coordinator over there. We'll see how he does calling plays by himself to see if he can't get anything going there, because establish a rapport with guys that are essentially his age or older. And so it's going to be very interesting to see what Joe Brady does there. Defensive coordinator for LSU, Dave Aranda, is reportedly taking the head coaching job at Baylor in Waco. He's going to take over for Matt Rule. So as you can see, Matt Rule is the integral moving piece that impacts LSU's entire staff. He takes Joe Brady with him to Carolina, and then Dave Aranda goes and fills in for him, takes the head coaching job at Baylor. So we'll see how Dave does. Dave is one of the best upcoming defensive coordinators in college football right now. Should be a good choice for Baylor and a conference that loves to throw the football around, has great quarterbacks, a lot of good offensive play. Not really known for their defense. We'll see what he brings to Baylor and the Big 12 Conference. It should be pretty exciting. And also, on top of that, it's normal to deal with staff turnover and stuff like that when you win a national championship or you win a Super Bowl or a World Series or whatever the case may be. But this is one thing that they're dealing with that they shouldn't have to be dealing with. That I'm sure they'd love to not be dealing with it. Odell Beckham Jr. was on the sidelines and in the locker room after the national championship. So he's on the field giving out, circulated all over Twitter, YouTube, and the internet pretty much. Social media just went viral with it. Him taking wads of cash and putting it into certain players' hands after LSU won a national championship. And at first LSU was like, oh, it was fake money, no big deal. And now all the players coming out saying, oh, no, it was real money, it was real cash. So now LSU is investigating that, looking into it, and doing their due diligence. And that's going to really hurt them going forward in terms of, are these players that got money players that still had eligibility, or are they all guys that were graduating and going on to the NFL or to whatever life brings them at this point? Because if they're players that still have eligibility to NCAA, and the LSU is going to have to get together and figure out what the appropriate punishment has got to be for that. And Odell is also making the College Football Playoff Committee rethink what their rules are in terms of who's allowed to be on the field on the sidelines and on the field during and after a college football playoff game. And because Odell was in the locker room, there was a police officer in there. He was trying to enforce some laws about players smoking cigars and cigarettes in the locker room. And then keep in mind the age to be able to smoke is moved from 18 to 21. That's a federal law. And so this officer was in there enforcing that, making sure players were actually of age to be smoking these cigars and cigarettes. And Odell came up behind this officer and smacked him on the butt. So now Odell is facing assault charges for that. He has an arrest warrant out for his arrest on that deal, and his representatives, his agent, is working with the New Orleans Police Department to come to a resolution on that. But it's causing both not only LSU, not only the College Football Playoff Committee, but LSU to both re-examine who they allow on the sidelines for these games, because it takes away, it distracts from the players, the coaches, the people that should be on the sideline. Coaches coaching the game, players playing in the game, and it's an unnecessary distraction when you see bad headlines like this come out of it. And it shouldn't be this bad. And Odell needs to kind of take a step back and just take a break, take a breather, and let's not stoke this fire anymore. What's done is done. Let's get over with it. And unfortunately, it's a big dumpster fire of a lot of small flames and fires going on in Baton Rouge. The Tigers, it's going to impact. This is going to be big. All this stuff is going to impact going forward for LSU. Not only the coaching changes, but all the headlines with Odell Beckham Jr. involved. It's going to impact who they can get. I said De'Aaron King might be somebody that LSU would get as a transfer quarterback. That might not be the case anymore. De'Aaron King might look at Joe Brady leaving and the potential for the NCAA coming down, or the athletic director at LSU himself cracking down on the football program, and say, is it really necessary to waste my one season of eligibility left on a program that may or may not be able to make the college football playoff next season? We'll find out. So I think that kind of makes him shy away. Chase Bryce, on the other hand, who knows? He's got potentially 2 years of eligibility. He might like the idea of going there because he's got 2 years to work with. It just depends on what comes out in the next couple of days, the next couple of weeks going on in Baton Rouge. We'll see how we'll follow that, and we'll see how that goes. And lastly, like I said, Major League Baseball is completely embarrassed. There's a lot of bad news going on. San Francisco has announced some changes to their staff as well, the Giants. But don't worry, this is a feel-good story. This isn't bad news. This isn't more scandal like what's going on with the Astro spy and the Houston Astros, the Mets, and the Boston Red Sox. The New York Giants have become the first team to employ a full-time female coach. They have hired Alyssa Nakin. She has been working with the franchise as a talent scout evaluator, things like that. She's been working with the franchise, and now she's officially a coach on the staff. She will be working with the players on the field in games and stuff like that. And a little bit about her: she was a 4-time all-conference selection to Sacramento State. She played softball there for 4 years. Very successful, very talented ball player. So she brings a lot to the table in terms of what the San Francisco Giants will be able to take advantage of her talent, her knowledge of the game, and we'll see just what happens there. It's exciting news. It's a good story for San Francisco. It's a good story for baseball that's been dealing with a lot of embarrassment and integrity of the game, to be able to say we've officially got our first female coach. And that's a big story of integration in baseball, and it couldn't come at a better time. So anyway, thanks for watching. Leave a like or a comment. Subscribe below. Share with your friends. But comment below and let me know what you think. It's a little bit longer than video than I thought it would be, but I'd love to hear your feedback when we'll respond to some of those. I'll respond to some of those in the future in videos. If not, I'll respond directly below, or I'll write something about it. Check out my blog. Of course, that's my blog. It's My Overly Competitive Life .wordpress.com. My Overly Competitive Life is also a Facebook page that you can follow, and you can also follow me on Twitter, Charles L. Chapman, and that'll also be linked below as well. But thanks for watching. Have a great day and enjoy your weekend.